After our first negotiating session in Paris, as we returned to the State Department, to the East Asia Pacific front office, where my office was right next to Dick Holbrooke's, we had a call from several officials at the Justice Department who came over to see us. One was named John Martin. He was a senior Department of Justice official who worked in the national intelligence area. And he said that they had discovered that the FBI and the CIA had discovered that there was a spy someplace in the US government who was providing classified documents and information, including about our negotiations in Paris, to the North Vietnamese government. I can't begin to tell you how stunned we were that such a situation existed. And this was known because there was a double agent, a Vietnamese woman married to an American military officer whose father, her father, was a senior official in the communist government. And therefore, even though she was married to an American, she was trusted as somebody who could be involved in this espionage ring. And what was happening was that a contact she had in America, a Vietnamese expatriate, was giving her packages to carry with her when she went to France. And she went back and forth regularly. And she had an American passport. And they believed that, and she believed, she didn't know, she hadn't seen what was inside the package, but she believed it could be government documents. And she turned the first package over to her CIA handler, who, because it was in the US, had to defer to an FBI agent handler. And they gave it to Justice Department officials whose judgment it was that they didn't have enough information to be able to open the package and look inside it. And so they gave it back to her and let her carry it out of the United States to France, where she delivered it to a Vietnamese diplomat assigned at the North Vietnamese embassy in Paris. The second time this happened, not too much later, and she was given another package, she turned it over to her FBI handler, who gave it to Justice Department officials. And as it was explained to us, there was a tear in the package, and they could look inside, and they saw that it was official documents. And so they opened it. And they copied all of the US classified documents and then repackaged them in an envelope, gave it to her, and told her to keep going, to take it to Paris, because they didn't know where they were coming from. And they wanted to find out who is the spy, who is the source within the U.S. government providing these documents to a Vietnamese expatriate named David Trung, who in turn was giving them to this woman to carry to France, to the courier, as she became known. And so suddenly, we had to face the possibility that all of our negotiating instructions, everything we had, was known to the North Vietnamese. It was incredibly disquieting. And we had to begin, how do we now restrict our messages, our instructions, to limit it only a very few people? And of course, any of us with any connection to Vietnam, and there were dozens of officers, including me, we all became suspects. Who could be doing this? I was tasked with evaluating all these cables. I was the one person trusted. The Justice Department brought me all of the classified materials, all these documents, and I'm going through them and looking at them. What's here? Where's this one from? They're from our embassy in Laos. They were from China. They were from previous cables from Vietnam. They were from Thailand. Wherever we were collecting information about Vietnam, they were all from there. And as I'm reviewing all of these and I'm working with the Justice Department people, and I looked at where are the cables, where do they pop up? Suddenly, the light bulb went on. Who had a motive to do this? Who had access to them? It was that American Foreign Service officer who was working in the U.S. Information Agency Communication Center, where every one of the cables went through, every one of the documents that had been compromised, every one of them came through there. And I called the diplomatic security people. They ran up to my office, and I said, I want to tell you about Ronald Humphrey, who had come to see me to tell me a story which was obviously the cover story. He had been putting it in place from that first time he came to see me at the National Security Council to when he came to see me about going to see the Swedish ambassador. And he was the person doing this. And the FBI went over and installed a hidden micro camera in his work area, in the communications area, and they recorded him taking all these materials, copying them in photocopies, putting them in envelopes, and taking them with him when he left the operations center where he worked. I had identified the spy within our government who was betraying us to our enemy for his personal gain.